So you've placed your first order and you've had your stock manufactured, and now it's time for the most risky and nerve-wracking step of the process. Having your stock shipped can be one of the scarier parts of the Amazon journey when you're doing it for your first time. And I know there's lots of questions like, who do I trust to ship my stock? What type of legalities or documents should I have in place? And how do I get peace of mind when everything is being done on the other side of the world? I'm gonna be answering all of these questions for you today so that you can act confidently and look professional when having your first order shipped. If you get to the end of the video and you find that you want a little bit more training or you want a bit more in-depth strategies, the first link down in the description, you'll see you'll be able to register for my live training sessions that I have on a Sunday. I have a bit more time to go in depth with you live. So if you want that little bit of extra help, make sure you click that link down in the description. But let's get into the first point. So when organizing who's going to take care of your stock and handle the shipment, there's generally one of two ways you can go. The first being letting your supplier organize the entire shipment. Now, firstly, the positives of this is that you have been dealing with your supplier over probably the last couple of months, and you've got to know them a bit better and they've got to know you, and you would hope that you've developed some sort of relationship so they're gonna know exactly what type of products you have there and the best way that you can ship them. You can also organize with your supplier whether you want the shipment to be sent straight into Amazon's warehouse in Australia, or maybe you want some of the stock sent to your house and then you levy it in little bit by little bit as your stock needs to go in. But some of the areas that you need to think about, especially if you're getting your stock made in China, is some of the areas that it can go wrong. Now, a lot of the times when you deal with suppliers in China, they are there just to make money off you, okay? And now it's not everyone, but from my experience, it is the vast majority of suppliers in China. And especially even if you've tried your best to come across professional, a lot of the time they're gonna sense that it is your first time placing an order, and they're gonna come out and they're gonna try and make every single dollar off you that they can. It's just their culture and it's the way that they do business. So if you aren't super specific in your details with the shipment and you have documents in place, a lot of the time they'll tell you that, yeah, we can get you the shipment to the dock super cheap, and then from the dock it'll go to the Amazon warehouses, and you'll be like, yeah, that's sweet. And then what you don't know is, so they finish manufacturing, all your stock's there on the factory floor, and then they get the owner's grandma's second removed son to come in his old pickup truck and he picks all your stock up, chucks it in the back of his ute, he's driving, and maybe sometimes it's like a 2-hour drive from their factory to the port, and they're going down this bumpy dirt road and your stock's all bumping around, and then a couple boxes fall out, and then, you know, he gets out and slings it back in, gets all the way to the port, and by then, you know, your packaging is damaged and the cartons might be a little bit ripped or torn up. So then when it gets onto the ship and, you know, it's palletized again and it's on the ship down in that corner and everything's pressing down on those broken boxes. So then by the time that it actually gets to Amazon and then into your customers' hands, you've got these damaged products or these squash products, and you're like, how did this happen? When I saw the photo of the product on the supplier's floor, everything looked great. So if you don't use someone who is a professional shipper, you will always run the risk of something going wrong. And I have heard this said all the time before, that in China, if there is something that is going to go wrong, they're going to find a way to make it go wrong. And this can also branch out into other things other than just how it's transported, things like getting it palleted correctly and stacked and labeled in the right way so that when it arrives at Amazon, there's no issues with it being accepted. Because if you don't have the labels correct, or maybe you've stacked it too high or the pallets aren't a high enough of a grade, Amazon won't accept it, they'll push it back and you will have to pay in order to have it fixed. So if you want to know those specifics, I have a little tag coming up here where you can watch my shipment video, which has some resources on how to pallet and label. But otherwise you're going to be sort of leaving that in the hands of your suppliers, and they are experts in manufacturing but not experts in shipping. So building off from this, you can then choose to use someone who is an expert in shipping, and they are called a 3PL or a third-party logistics company. Now, obviously, just out of the way first, pretty much the only negatives for using a 3PL is they're gonna cost you a little bit more, okay? Because you'll be paying for the shipment like you would if you were using your supplier, but then you're also paying for their service to take care of your shipment and to make sure everything gets to Amazon safely. So of course, you are paying for this higher cost than you would normally because they are specialists, okay? If you do use a third-party logistics company, they're gonna make sure that when they go to pick up your shipment, they're going to do the checks for you, make sure the pallets are correct, make sure everything's labeled correctly, make sure it's stacked safely, and they're going to book the appointment for you in with Amazon and make sure everything goes smoothly there. So when weighing up which option to use, you're basically looking at using your supplier, which is going to be cheaper, but then you run the risk of this product that you've developed for maybe 6 months just going down the drain because it wasn't handled properly when it was taken to Amazon, or your profit margin being thrown away because it wasn't labeled and Amazon didn't accept it and you have to pay to get it fixed. Then on the other hand, you have the 3PL, of which will cost you a little bit more, but it's going to make sure that no matter what, your shipment is going to arrive there safely and everything's going to be good on Amazon's end. Now, some 3PLs that I recommend, and I only recommend them because I've used them in my experience and those around me have used them. One of those being Lucky and the other being Worldcraft Logistics. Now, if you have an extremely small shipment, sometimes if it's under 100 units or depending on the size of it, they might not take your shipment because it's too small for them, but they have extremely friendly customer service. You can reach out on their website, get a quote from them, and then decide whether or not they're going to take you in and whether you want to go forward with them. And then the other point I wanted to touch on for you was just some of the legal documents that you can consider whether or not you want to get them in order to protect you when dealing with your supplier. Now, obviously, if you go with a 3PL, they're going to check everything off for you and make sure most of it is okay with your supplier, but you do always want to have your documentation in place because your strength comes from your documentation, so that if something does go wrong or your suppliers have tried to cut a corner and make money somewhere, you can fall back on your documents to save you from those big costs that you've spent all this time and money investing in. Now, full disclosure is I'm going to go through and I'm going to list off the names of some of the documents you can look into. I can't just give away all of the documents for free, just as I've had to spend a heap of money on legal costs and getting the documents developed over the years, and I have them available for the people in my program, the Amazon Australia University, and it is a big part of what people pay for. So it wouldn't be free for me to give the documents away completely, but I'm going to go through the list and give you the names of everything. So if you choose to, you can go out and find the documents and have them developed yourself. Okay, so the first is an FBA checklist. This is a list that goes into extensive details that you give to your suppliers to make sure that they pack all of your cartons correctly and your product into all of the cartons. And then they put your carton labels and your pallet labels on correctly, facing the right way, and the matches and the numbers match up, so that way everything is accepted into Amazon. So you send this list to them, they have to tick it off and then company chop it. A company chop is pretty much what we say is like a signature. It's the closest way to the Chinese giving their word on something that they do. And if then they break it, you can take that document to the Chinese government, a Chinese government official, and the government is really hard on coming down on companies that have given the chop on something. So the first document there is your FBA checklist to make sure it gets accepted properly. The second document is a packing declaration form. So this is a form that your supplier fills out, and it's a document that customs is going to need when your products are coming into the country. It just lets them know the details of the materials that are actually in the packaging goods to make sure everything fits into the Australian regulations. So the next document that we're going to touch on is called a packing list. Now, this is a document that you give to your supplier to finish filling out, and they're going to put in there how many products were done and finished on their factory floor. So that then if your stock arrives to Amazon and Amazon say that they've received maybe 10, 20, 50 less than what you thought were coming, you can show Amazon and say, hey, this is how many that I was told were sent. show your freight forwarder, and then if it comes all the way back to your supplier, you can say, hey, both of these guys said they didn't get this many. You mustn't have sent what you said here. So it's just going to protect you to cover those costs in case those couple of products go missing somewhere. And then following on from this is your purchase order agreement. Okay, so this is going to be the document that has all of the details in it that you've discussed with your supplier. Okay, if you need special conditions, like say you're getting glass cups made and you don't want fingerprints on the glass and you need your supplier to have white gloves on when they're manufacturing it, that's something you would put in here. So if they arrive with fingerprints, it comes back on the supplier, okay? This is where you put in the details, how many are being made, the specifications, the quality of the materials, any special things that you're working into the contract. That's what you're going to put into this document here to protect you if your supplier tries to cut corners or save any money that results in a lower quality product. And then the last document we're going to touch on is a quality control checklist. Now, as spoken about, you can have a third-party quality control company come in, such as like VTrust, who specialize in this area and going to be less likely to be tipped off from your supplier. And then this is a document that you can also give to your supplier with your list of questions and the quality control aspects that you want taken. So like, is it this certain Pantone color? Are the stitchings all done as doubles? Is the magnetic seal done on tight with no rips in it? Stuff like that. And so if your supplier ticks yes to everything that it's fine, they company chop it, and then your document arrives and you're finding from all these reviews you're getting that the stitching was only done once, so it's super loose, or the colors were all off, you can come back on this and say, hey, you guys said this was done. You provided a product that didn't match the quality checklist that we agreed on. So there we have it, guys. It's now up to you to make the decision on which way you want to weigh it up, whether you want to go with your supplier and sort of organize things yourself, or work with a professional who's going to take care of it for you, and then go out and do some research if you're wanting any of those legal documents done up, or if you want them all done already to access for you, you can check it out in our Amazon Australia University. And remember, if you find you want a bit more in-depth strategy or a bit more of a guide along the way, check out our live training sessions down linked in the description. But I'm so proud of you guys for taking this step forward towards a new future. I know it's a scary step, but once you've done it once, you're going to be better and better, and it'll become like child's play for you. So congratulations on getting this far, and remember, you're only one product away from living the life of your dreams. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.